I was sitting here waiting to give you guys a talk today about this generation and looking at your logo there and thinking about the buffalo and what it represents to conservationists. And I really feel awed and humbled to be here because I'm such a big believer in what you do. And I hope what I have to add today will shape your thinking about this new generation. It's the largest generation. It's the most diverse. It's the most educated. And interestingly, it's the most well-traveled generation in America. They travel more than their older counterparts in Gen X and baby boomers, and they're really important to the travel industry. They represent about a third of all travelers, a third of all Americans, and as such, they're a topic of great interest to travel marketers, and they're also a subject of great hype. You know, we all like to make fun of the younger generation, and hopefully I can cut through some of that hype today and distill down what you really need to know about the millennial generation as travelers. So I'd like to start with a quick question. How are our national parks related to the following 5 concepts? High energy excitement, self-improvement, bucket list fulfillment, bragging rights, and vice. And vice is a big topic, right? But I'm thinking of this personally here as that thing that us baby boomers used to call sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? Those of us older probably remember that in our past. Anyway, the answer to this question is it's your competition. This is your competition as the national parks, and what I mean by that more specifically is these are the experiences that destinations around the globe are selling to millennials, and they're the experiences that they want and are attracted to. The national parks obviously have a thread through here too, and they can use this, but it's very important that you understand that, and I'm going to come back to it, but I want to start with the notion. In our office, we've decided to call this generation the generation of yes, because when it comes to travel, they say yes. They are excited about going everywhere and doing everything. We've done a bunch of focus groups recently this year all around the country with millennials, and we had them do this exercise where he said, write down your travel epitaph. That is, when you come to the end of your days, what do you want people to say about the way you traveled? And to a person, this is well over 100 people, they all said, I want to go everywhere, I want to do everything, I don't want to leave anything on the table. And interestingly, they also said, almost all of them said something to the effect of, I want to make myself a better person through these travel experiences, or I want to make the world a better place. Travel is a very high-minded thing for them, and they're really, really excited about it, but it's also very, very competitive. We counsel our clients, our DMO, Destination Marketing Organization clients around the country, that when you think of this generation, don't think regionally about your competition. You're competing with everyone because they're looking all over the world for things to see and do, and the parks should look at themselves that way too. A couple of things I'm going to share with you. One, the first and one of the most important things you need to know about this generation is that they live in a world of unprecedented connectivity. It's something that us baby boomers can't begin to understand. And when I say connectivity, you probably are thinking about the ability to connect with people through technology and all, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that plus the desire to do it and the act of doing it. As travelers, when we've asked them in national surveys, something to the effect of how important are your network, your friends and relatives? Are they a trusted source of travel advice? Way more likely than baby boomers to say that their friends and relatives are trusted. When you talk to them in focus groups, you hear the same story. They're out there talking to people all the time about what's being done. They're listening to what's cool. They're listening to what people are doing. And just some stats for you. Almost all millennials are going to use their cell phone, their mobile device, to plan their travel. 3 times as likely as baby boomers to do that. They are 4 times as likely to use Facebook for planning their travel adventures, 10 times as likely to use Twitter, and 20 times as likely to use Instagram. So all of these new technologies that are out there to communicate, they're using to plan their travel, and they're using it in a way us older people really can't appreciate, talking to people, connecting with their networks. But there's a downside to this connectivity, and that is we asked a question on one of our national surveys recently, and we said, well, if you took a 1-week vacation, and we took away your phone for texting, basically for doing texting and emails, would you feel very uncomfortable? Stressing very uncomfortable, not just uncomfortable. 71% of millennials agreed with that, compared to 33% of boomers. I don't know what's wrong with that 33%, but anyway, in a recent interview I did, an in-depth interview with a millennial, this quote came out, and I wanted to leave you with it. We may say we love the great outdoors, but the reality of being disconnected is a little scary. I think this very well represents the feeling of a lot of millennials. They appreciate the great outdoors. They know it's important for them. They want to do it. They're saying yes to it, right? They're the generation of yes, but being away from their stuff is a little scary. I'm sure that there are purists in this room who probably think that connectivity and the experience of a national park are something antithetical to each other, that they shouldn't go hand in hand. But I'm telling you, if you want to market to this generation, you have to throw that way of thinking out, because it's not going to work. And I don't like to use this analogy, but think of it if you're marketing to heavy smokers, and you tell them, we want you to come to our destination, but you can't bring your cigarettes. Yeah, seriously, good luck, because it's not going to work. So, but as I said, this generation appreciates the great outdoors. We asked in our national survey, are quiet, peaceful destinations generally the best places for vacations? 80% of them said yes, just like baby boomers. Widespread consensus. We asked them if experiencing nature away from urban areas was important to their leisure travel. Again, 60% of millennials said yes, as baby boomers. So we have a nation full of people who appreciate the great outdoors. They understand its importance, right? But you can't take that at face value with this generation. And I'll share another quote from a recent interview. Nature is like broccoli. We know it's good for us, but we don't love it. And again, this is a notion you'll hear again and again when you talk to young people. They know it's important, but it's not necessarily top of mind with them. And in fact, when we ask them if they generally prefer an urban destination to a rural one, defined as a beach, a state or national park, a scenic byway, or a small town, they're far more likely to say that they generally prefer urban destinations. They're focused on cities. But remember, they're the generation of yes. You can get them to go to your parks. You just have to use those experiences I talked about before in an effective way to, as Chris said, show them something unique and different that they can brag about. And a couple other quick stats to show you how different they are. We asked them on a full vacation, would you want a complete itinerary of things to see and do on every day of your vacation? 73% yes, compared to 43% of boomers. 54% said that their vacations are usually they turn out to be hectic or busy. They're not a relaxing experience, way more than boomers at about 13%. So they experience travel in a very different way. Now, I'm going to leave you with 4 thoughts. These are my 4 pieces of wisdom for dealing with this generation and marketing to them. First of all, stress value. This generation has not yet reached its peak earning potential. It's getting there. It'll happen, but it's not there yet. They have not fully coupled up like the baby boomers have, so they don't have the benefit of the dual incomes. So the more you talk about value, the better you're going to relate to them. Emphasize connectivity and emphasize it in the broad sense I talked to you about before. Don't just think about technology, think about their need to talk to other people. Bragging rights are really important. When you're talking to them through your marketing or advertising, show them stuff they can brag about with their friends. Show them stuff that's really cool. Something they want to share on Facebook, something they want to tweet about, something that they want to show on Instagram. Heck, something they want to get a tattoo about to show, I'm not kidding, to show what this great experience they had in life was. So, and also show them experiences they can do with their friends or relatives. Okay, as a baby boomer, I probably want to go off in the sequoias like John Muir and, commune with God, but that's not what they want. They want to do things with their friends and relatives. And user reviews are also very important. Encourage them to look at reviews, to post reviews, to talk to the community through that. Go digital. This hardly needs to be said in today's day and age. I mean, everything has to be digital, right? But you need to make it a little avant-garde. The baby boom generation is the same. We all are. When we were young, we have a sense for cool, right? We just know what's cool and what's hip and what's not. And it's like a dog, if you have treats in your pocket, he's going to know it's there. The millennials are no different. You need to talk to them in a way that they can relate to. Make it cool, make it a little avant-garde, but mostly make it easy. There's been a lot of talk about how this generation has no patience, right? I don't know if that's true or not, but certainly when you test electronic communications with them, like website usability testing and stuff, 0 patience if something isn't designed perfectly to get them what they want right away. They'll just go somewhere else. So make it avant-garde, make it easy, and finally remember the competition. Okay, remember that we have these 5 experiences that they want. look at your park, align with those things, put them together, and you'll be able to communicate well with this group. Hopefully bring them in. So thank you.
Well, thanks, Dave. That's great. We don't just have to figure out our competition with Vice, and we've got to figure it out, right? I'm going to put the first question to Ken because I know you've been doing a lot of work in this area and done a lot of research on the millennials. And anything you'd like to add to that assessment, which I thought was quite excellent?
First off, that was a fantastic presentation, and to get all of that information into 8 minutes was amazing. This is an incredibly tricky generation of people. I think all of the points you made were spot on. You can imagine as an agency person when we go and to present some of that avant-garde stuff to the National Park Foundation board members, they'd... The average age is like 70 in the room, so it's hard to connect. But I think, the thing I would add is we do a lot as an agency, we do a lot of research around this, and this is a problem for every client we have. This isn't isolated to the Park Service. Every brand out there is trying to figure out how to connect with this generation of people. Our job's even tougher, I think, because when you think about those experiences they want and the travel they want and all that kind of stuff, we're not on their radar screen at all. And I know that's a very blanket statement, but it's really true, okay? So we not only have to supply everything that Dave just said, but we got to get out there and make them aware of us to begin with. And one of the things we always say in our presentations is it's not just awareness, it's relevancy. So we've got to get people to sit up, recognize that we're there, recognize what we have to offer and those experiences in a relevant way so they connect and at least have some kind of interest to pursue it. And, this is a generation that is so hard to kind of cut through. They are the generation of no BS. They can sniff it out quickly. They don't like advertising, which is tough for my generation of people and my business. But we engage with them in a different way through social media, through, the user reviews, through celebrity endorsements, et cetera. Whatever they're connecting to, we have to get that message to them through that so that we get that relevancy, that they feel that there's something of interest there. And that message has to also allow them to find their way in. This generation doesn't want to be told what to do. So we can't put a message out there and say, you need to go to Yellowstone because it's super cool and you're going to do all these things and you're going to have this amazing experience. They want to know what's available, but they'll find their way in on their own terms. And as Dave said so well, then they will broadcast that out. And it could have been the same things. We could have done the exact same things. But as two different millennials, we'll probably broadcast it to our networks as two completely different experiences. And that's the thing we've got to remember is they want it to be a personalized experience. And that's so important in the way we talk to them and the way we allow them to find their way in and experience everything that we have to offer.
It's great. You want to react to that all day?
I'll tell you, if you guys were to do a focus group with millennials and ask them, where do you really want to go? Give me a list of your top 10. Probably very few people would list a national park. However, when that word comes up, it'll turn people on and they'll get excited about it. And just to give you an example, and I would say too that I think the parks probably have the strongest brand of all outdoor type activities with young people. We did a study recently for the state of Nevada, and Nevada, what do you think of? Vegas, right? Most people don't know anything but Las Vegas, and it's just an empty nothing outside of that in their mind. And we showed them a list of and pictures of all these great assets that they have, outdoor assets, and it's a fantastic state with lots of stuff to do. And the first thing everyone went to were Lehman Caves and the Great Basin National Park, because the name, National Park. I know it gives it credibility to the asset that all the rest didn't have, unless there was some, particular interest that they had in birding or something along that line. So
I'm going to go to Stephanie on this one. I want to get a sense of how the trust is thinking about, I know visitation to historical museums and historical homes is in pretty precipitous decline in some cases, and particularly with that generation, and how the trust is thinking about how we can make them aware and get them to come.
Well, thank you. One of the things, Dave, that you said that really struck a chord with me is the attraction of urban centers for millennials. And again, I think as we think about national parks, that a lot of our cultural resources that are park units are in urban areas, and there's a great opportunity for us there because we can introduce the National Park Service to people in their backyards and then sell up, if you will, to get them out to some place that's further afield. To answer Director Jarvis's question directly, one of the things the National Trust is doing is to try to engage people, and you spoke also about authenticity and experience, not membership necessarily, but experience. And we have been working with the Park Service actually in Delaware North to create a program we call Hope Crew, Hands-on Preservation Experience, which gives people an opportunity to do preservation work. And I was wondering if you could expand a little bit on the point that Ken just made on the distinction of offering somebody an opportunity versus them wanting to create that opportunity for themselves.
that's a tough one. I'm not quite sure what you're asking me, to be honest. What's the...
Well, how much millennials want to kind of buy into an opportunity, a program, if you will, that is created for them versus creating something on their own?
Oh, yeah. I've never really sensed a huge difference between the two. I mean, like I was saying, this generation seems to have a radar for cool and stuff they like. And I think if you did either one right, that it could be compelling to them, and especially if their friends were interested in it.
So could the aspect of what's been called voluntourism, where they're actively engaged in doing some sort of project on the ground in a park,
Absolutely.
could be certainly in the bragging rights category?
Absolutely. And what I was saying earlier, I really meant it when I said that something that came up again and again and again was this: I want to make myself a better person, and I want to make the world a better place. I was joking earlier that when I was in my 20s, I couldn't have cared less about, making the world a better place with my travel. I just wanted to go have fun. But this generation is indoctrinated well and inculcated into wanting that, and they want it very deeply. So, yeah.
I would add there that through our research, we also hear that when this generation connects to the parks and understands the mission, there's a real affinity then that's developed because they see the need to pass along these things to the next generation. So it's not just always, can I make it a better place, but there's a real responsibility to make sure these places continue to thrive and are passed along. So I think there's a lot of those types of, there's small bits of understanding of the mentality of these people that we can, keep pushing at, but they make a huge difference in what that experience and kind of what they take away from the parks then and how they operate after that are really important.
Yeah. We were talking a bit earlier about this, but my company's done a lot of work on psychographic mapping of the generations, and the millennials, interestingly and surprisingly to me, are much more interested in culture than older generations. I guess it's a stereotype that they're just kind of, uninterested in things that are, they're more interested in vice than, things of high culture, but that's not true at all. So it's certainly a general topic that would appeal.
Well, our research has shown the same thing, and I would just say for all of our parks that have cultural resources on them, they resonate very strongly with this demographic, and they may not yet know the word preservation, but they love the outcome of places that have been taken care of for a long time for exactly the reason Ken was saying, this sort of cultural legacy that we share as American people, and we have remarkable cultural assets that we can play up in our outreach.
Jerry or John, you guys want to weigh in?
Yeah,
here?
I can. How much time have we got? I mean, I've got. Well, first of all, I'd like to say, I'm pretty sure my generation cornered the market on Vice. So I think, I think our kids are, I think our kids are a lot better people than we are. And Stephanie, I think the Hope Crew project was the most amazing thing about it was after these kids were done, they actually had a sense of ownership of that park, and they brought their families back to show what they had done. And that kind of connection, that kind of relevance is the key, in my mind, the key to the future of the parks, somehow converting those good feelings into a visit. And I'll tell you, in our other businesses, there's reason for great concern here, and competition is something we really need to focus on and understand. Because in the 1970s in the sports business, the #1 spectator sports in America were boxing and horse racing, okay, in the 70s, not that long ago. And those were, especially remember boxing was thought that would never fail. The NFL sort of has that feeling today. But if you don't stay relevant, you will lose your market and you will lose your position, even if you are something that seems, paramount to the U.S. economy or culture. So I would say this is probably the most important issue that we face for our national parks today. And the interesting thing to me is where technology has gone, we see this again in the sports business. All of these devices are looking for content. They're looking for content that can't be reproduced. It's real-time, live content. That's why the sports business is seeing such an incredible increase in values. But to the extent that you have the millennials sharing content on these devices, you do increase the overall visibility and a connection and a relevance in their world. And personally, I think to the extent that we get families back, what happened with the racetracks and the boxing? You didn't take your kids. So those kids grew up and they had a whole different set of priorities, and they had an appetite for a whole different product. We need to get our kids in the parks, and we need to get them in the parks so that they remember they have those fond memories and that connection. It's like when I go to a baseball park today and I smell the grass, I'm home. And I think that's what has to happen with our parks as well. So not only do we have to deal with this millennial group that's a little older in college now, but we also have to really take advantage of the opportunity to get the youngest of the generation in our parks and give them those experiences.
I was thrilled when Derek asked me to come and speak to you guys, because it's obvious to me that your biggest challenge is an awareness one. You have tremendous assets that are the gems of our country, and yet the younger generation doesn't know or appreciate them. So hearing that you're out actually actively getting in their face and marketing to them is good news, right?
We're about to change that, right, right, Ken?
Yes. So I'm coming off about 4 different research projects with millennials. And here's the one thing I can identify, even there's a problem. Anybody in this room under 25, raise your hand. That's the problem. The problem is we're a bunch of old people trying to continue to try to talk to young people instead of inviting the young people in and letting them talk to us. So what we've done after, it's too bad we're broadcasting this, after not too much budget spent on this, I promise, was said, you know what, let's stop trying to figure that out. Let's have them talk to us. Let's not them talk. This, by the way, this was a great presentation, and this just underscores the severity of this issue. We are off base most times. You mentioned the tattoo. We heard the word tattoo 1,000 times, and it's so significant for the younger generation because they say, listen, I don't want to interact with your brand unless it means something. It's not about what you sell, it's about who you are. It's about what you stand for. And if I buy into all of that, I will buy your product. And if I decide I'm going to buy your product, that means it's good enough to tattoo onto my arm. Right? That's how seriously I take this decision. This is not about willy-nilly. And we like to label them and say that the youngest generation is not loyal. They're hyper-loyal. They are so incredibly loyal, but not in loyalty the way we understand loyalty. So the hoteliers are freaking out about this now too, because the whole come and spend 100 nights and we'll tell you what you get, that's not going to work. They like what you get, but there's no chance they're going to spend 100 nights getting there, right? So they just want to know what you're about. They want to know how they relate to you. So these national parks, we talked about what they mean and about preserving them and about for the concept of, we heard over and over again, I want to be a better person. I want to make this world a better place. Let's invite them to tell us how they want to get involved. Let's stop trying to figure out, hey, here's 50 ways for you to react with us. How about, hey, we have no idea what we're talking about, and here's what we'd like to know. We'd like to know how you'd like to do this, how you'd like to be involved, how you'd like to own this with us and be responsible in that sense. And let's learn from them, because there's so much we can. And that's all I have to say about that.
I don't think we can top that. I think that was a good reminder that we should stop talking to ourselves about young people and really invite them into the conversation and hear what they have to say, and then listen and heed, I think, their input. Your comment about spending 100 nights in order to get something, we were having a corporate meeting recently about the centennial, and they said millennials want to know what they can get when they do this right away. That's it, right? None of this building it up over time. Right? Okay, thanks. Thanks, Dave. Great work.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to meet you.